Welcome back to A&A. Today we're going to change the oil in our 2008 F250 with the 6.4 diesel engine. It's really simple to do. You just need a couple of items. You'll need a 9/16 socket, a ratchet, a 36mm socket. This is for the oil filter cap that's under the hood. You'll need your Motorcraft filter for the 6.4. It's the FL2016 Motorcraft. It also comes with the O-ring you'll need. Step one is to get a bucket. This is going to be a 15 quart capacity. So the 5-gallon bucket works well. That way you've got room extra at the top when you go to trying to slide the bucket out from under the truck. You don't spill it. So that's step one. Let's get a bucket and we'll get you into the truck. Now that we have our 5-gallon bucket underneath the drain pan, we're going to start to get this drain bolt loose. Now, I will tell you, I've replaced the factory drain plug with aftermarket, and I'll tell you why. The head of the bolt that your socket has to fit on, the factory original, is very, very shallow, and if you don't have your socket flush with it, you'll start running the corners off. So if you're in the auto parts store, O'Reilly's, AutoZone, the Dorman help aisle has a aftermarket drain plug, same threads that fit, and the head of the bolt is much deeper. Makes it easier to get your socket on there and to have a good fit. All right, so now that we've got that draining, we're going to let that drain. Then we're going to go up top and we'll take a look at getting that oil filter out. Okay, here's where the greatest risk is for making a mess. The oil filter that we're looking for is this one right here. This is your oil. This one right here is for your fuel. There's one of the fuel filters is under here. So we're after the oil filter, which is right here. The caps are plastic. 36mm is what it takes. Now you can, if you're in a bind, you can use an adjustable wrench. I can even use a pair of channel lock pliers. I wouldn't do that on a regular basis, because if you'll see how this cap, there's almost no corners at all left on it. So the socket won't even do any good on that one. This one hasn't been done with, so fits good. Now, being plastic, the way they seal is an O-ring. So when we go to put this back on with the new filter and the new O-ring, just keep that in mind, that the O-ring is what seals, not how tight you've got the cap on. And you don't want to put the cap on very tight past just snug. once it pops loose, just let it sit there for just a second. You want to let it drain as much of the old oil out of it. So I go ahead and get my new filter out, set it to the side, and I use the box that the new filter came in to put my old filter in it, just to try and minimize the mess. So the trick is that filter is snapped to the inside of this cap. So we're going to be quick about it. Now while I have it in this box, I can pull my cap loose. And before it makes just too much of a mess, get this paper towel on it. Just kind of clean it up a little bit. See that little cup up in the top of that cap? That's what the filter is going to snap into. Is a little. I'll show you on the filter in just a second. There's an O-ring right here. So you peel the old O-ring off. It sits in this groove right here. You might need to get a pick to get it out. Usually it's loose enough to where you can maneuver it out without too much difficulty. So now we'll get our new O-ring. And you know, there'll be enough oil on your fingers on the cap, so don't worry about like pre-oiling your O-ring. There's enough oil residue left on everything. It'll get pre-oiled. And we're gonna just roll it down into its groove. Once you get it started in there, it'll just roll right in there. All right, there it is. All right, O-ring is installed. Take your new oil filter. You see on one end it's open. On one end it's got those tabs. Those tabs fit up in the top of this cap. It's nothing dramatic. It just snaps in there like that. It's in there. This is going to fit over your spring right here. Now, you are going to have to apply some downward pressure while you're turning it clockwise to get it to thread back on. It's nothing difficult. Just be mindful that it is going to push back on you a little bit. Now, it has gotten to the point where the O-ring is at. Get your socket. Keep in mind your O-ring is what seals, not the top. All right, so that's just snug. I look and make sure the O-ring hasn't gotten dislodged and maybe pooching out between the cap and the body of the housing. It hasn't, but if you see, But you saw how tight I got that. It's not that the cap is very tight. It's good and snug, but if I tighten it any more, I could crack that plastic cap. Snug is all you want. The O-ring seals. So that's done it for the oil filter. And the only oil that got spilled was maybe a couple of drops over there and just what's on my hands. So, oil filter done. We'll go back up under the truck. We'll put our drain plug back in, and we'll get that bucket of old oil out from under there. Then we'll fill her up with the new fresh oil. This has been draining for a good 15 minutes, and still got a fairly decent stream coming out. So I'm gonna let this finish. I'm gonna put my drain plug back in, and the torque spec says 35 foot-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that'll read 35 foot-pounds. The big one starts at 50 foot-pounds, and the small one stops at 250 inch-pounds. So I'm gonna have to guesstimate like about 2 Ooga Boogas ought to do it. What I didn't mention was I do replace the washer on my drain plug with a copper washer, a new copper washer every time. You can get a set of those copper washers, especially from Harbor Freight. They're not very cheap, and you're always needing them if you do any kind of maintenance work on your own vehicles and equipment and stuff. The copper washers, they conform to whatever imperfections in the drain plug or in the pan. It helps seal really good. So this is a 15 quart oil capacity, and I would recommend if you own diesel engine, while you're out and about, whenever you're not looking to buy oil, but you happen to be out doing other things, shopping for whatever else, keep an eye out for sales on the oil. A lot of times you will run into some sales on the diesel oil. I prefer to run a 15W40 diesel oil in my engines. Today I happen to be using Castrol. Just happens to be probably the oldest stock I have, which is not very old. It's less than a year that I've had it in stock, so I'm rotating the old first. So I'm going to use this today. I'm going to put 15 quarts in. Then we're going to start the truck and check for leaks. Well, another successful oil change. We got no leaks. Oil is up to the proper level. Everything looks good. As far as intervals, changing your oil, especially on these diesel trucks, diesel burns, you know, nasty. The oil's, one of its main functions is to capture particulates, keep them suspended until you can change that oil. So that's why in a diesel engine the oil gets really dark really quick. It's doing its job. Dispose of your oil properly. Most any auto parts store, if they sell oil, I believe they have to take in and recycle the used oil. I know the big box brands do. Intervals as far as oil changes, I try to stick to 5,000 miles. I don't try not to go over 5,000 miles before an oil change. It's also a good idea to add a little, trying to remember the name of it. It's for stiction. I think it's called Stiction Eliminator. Stiction is what takes place when oil causes some of the parts to, well, stick. So the Stiction Eliminator, you add about a quart of that, replace a quart of oil with the Stiction Eliminator, a quart of it. So then you would have 14 quarts of oil, 1 quart of the Stiction Eliminator. It's not necessary, but it does tend to prevent issues down the road, because oil in a diesel engine, it does a lot of other things, a lot more things than it does in a gas burning engine. Read up about it. It's very interesting, the diesel engines. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'd really appreciate that. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell. You can be alerted when I post a new video. Y'all have a good day, and just remember, be kind to one another.